In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we're going to be talking about finally our drought of Chicago Bears football is about to end. We're talking about the Cubs. Have they started to turn a corner? Talking White Sox, little Bulls, and more. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You could see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. So make sure you head on over to icehogs.com, get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Hey, Alex, how are you doing today?
I am doing just jolly. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Last night it was funny. My daughter was woke up scared. She asked my wife to go sleep in bed with her. So my wife's like, okay, I'll go to bed early. She's like, can you shut the sprinkler off? She's like, my plants need water. They're dying. And I'm like, okay. And I hear a noise against the front window. And I'm like, did she get up and I didn't hear her move the sprinkler to the front? No, it's raining. And that is 3 for 3 of my wife using the sprinkler this year. Every single time it starts pouring rain as soon as she uses the sprinkler.
Yeah, that was quite a storm we had, kind of two waves, and I was up late last night and it was about I want to say 12:15, 12:30, and I think the power across the street went out, or the street lights went out. Our power didn't completely go out, but it flickered on and off two or three times. And some of the lightning strikes were really, really close. And then sometime early in the morning, it started downpouring and storming again. And it seems like we haven't seen the last of the storms either this week. So get ready for it, Chicago.
Yeah, I just saw a weather alert come through. I didn't look for which counties, but assuming Cook is in there if I got the notice.
It seems like it's all of like Northern Illinois.
Yeah, it's that season.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, it's kind of a non-surprise lately when it's been so moist and warm out. So, that's what happens when the weather turns like this. The heat, the moisture, you get these thunderstorms and you got to be careful. And hey, it's a good time for the All-Star break in baseball because I have a feeling that there might be a rainout or two if the games are going on, but we got the All-Star break early this week, so we don't have to worry about any games being played, any Cubs or Sox games getting played in this potentially bad weather, so that's a plus.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be nice to get a little break from games that matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a good time for the All-Star break, but this is the last weekend that we won't have Chicago Bears football for like 7 months.
Yeah,
And
I know. It's crazy.
I am very excited about that. My wife is extraordinarily not excited about it. She's like, I'm about to lose you again for half a year. And I'm like, a little longer. A lot longer.
Oh, great. You're going to be trapped in meatball sauce again. I can't get to you.
I was like, one day, I'm like, statistically, one day, the Bears are going to win a Super Bowl. Just statistically, they have to, right? And you will see me in full meatball mode. And she's like, I haven't already seen that. And I was like, no. I'm like, they've been pretty much mostly terrible since we've met. Like, so no, you haven't.
Well, and think about it for me, at least you got to see 1985. I didn't. So if I see a Bears Super Bowl, that'll be my first one.
their first victory.
Yes. Yeah, I remember 2006 very well. I remember that night. I remember not sleeping well that night at all. That was that was tough. It was tough to get up that next day too. Just mentally, I was all depressed. And that next day in school, I was in seventh grade. Like 90% of the sports fans were all kind of hanging their heads down, sad. The rest of the 10% sports fans were like Packers fans, so they were all in our face and rubbing Colts stuff in our faces. So it was like three of every 20 people that were doing that. And then the rest were non-sports fans that just didn't really care. So, but I remember a very somber mood that next day.
Yeah. I did not go to work the next day, and nobody. I didn't call in or anything. Nobody questioned it. I lived in Philadelphia, so everybody knew I was the Bears fan. So um, when I didn't come in, they were just like, "I'm just gonna leave them be and give them a little space."
Well, nobody called to make sure you didn't do anything brash. You didn't fall into a massive bender or something like, "Oh, are you still at the bar? What's going on? You still drinking your sorrows away?"
They're like, "Are you okay, Sean? Is We'll give you some space. Just give us a thumbs up that you're breathing."
You
Uh,
just give like a little twitch. Oh, close enough.
but so we're recording this on Sunday, and on Tuesday is when rookies report for training camp. And the veterans then report 3 days later on Friday. So the big question is, will Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze sign before rookies report to training camp on Tuesday?
I hope so. I hope so.
Is because I've been saying that I'm trying not to be nervous,
Neither am I.
but we're getting to the point now where they have, like, let's see, 24, like 40 hours before they have to sign those contracts, because they can't report to training camp without being under contract. Like, they could do
Right.
OTAs and things. They cannot go to training camp. So we are what makes me a little less nervous is that it's both of them. So part of me is like, all right, is it kind of like when the NFL told Ryan Poles to wait 5 minutes before making the pick? Is this oh, hey, let's bring this down to the wire for extra stuff for Hard Knocks?
Well, I was just gonna ask, like, are they just making sure the Hard Knocks camera crews are all in place so they can record it? Because, I mean, listen, there have been suggestions. Oh, well, they're doing it for Hard Knocks, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, well, I don't know if that's the number one motivating factor, but it probably is like, hey, we'll get this all done. Let's just make sure we get it on camera, you know? Because obviously you're not going to have them do it and then show it and be like, hey, guess what we revealed? They signed their rookie deals, because Hard Knocks doesn't air until what?
August
A few
5th.
months later, August. So, obviously that's not the case, but I'm sure if they could, Hard Knocks would love to get that on camera, seeing that happen. But
Yeah,
I mean, I also do want to hope and think that they're not letting Hard Knocks dictate the way they handle the future of their franchise. I'd like to believe that's not the case, but
I mean, for all we know, that the details have all been ironed out and they just have to
right,
sign it. In which case,
right.
that they probably come in on Tuesday, sign the contracts, and then go to their lockers. Um, so like that's a possibility, because if they have not finished ironing out details for both of them, that's bad. That would be real bad.
Yeah. I'm
So
gonna optimistically say they've worked most of that out. Optimistically.
yeah, so I'm gonna guess it's not that, oh, hey, Bears are holding off, but maybe just signing the actual paperwork so they show up on camp, so it can be artificial, drama for Hard Knocks. Like behind the scenes, it's, oh yeah, it's all done, all done, all done. And then it's like, for Hard Knocks it is Tuesday morning and training rookies are already arriving. will Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze be there?
And then you see their cars pull up. Oh, look, there they go inside Hallis Hall. There's Kevin Warren next to them doing push-ups in front of the George Hallis statue.
But I did get a sign from God that this is all going to work out. Is right before I put on the draft, I turned the TV on and there was a commercial on for the Purple Crayon movie.
Oh my God. So okay, so that's a good sign. That's a really good sign. I also think, this this may sound a little just kind of optimistic guessing on my part, but we're not hearing any smoke really of anything funky or weird.
No,
I feel like that's a good sign, right? At least in my optimistic mind, it is.
Yeah, we are not hearing strife or any kind of rumors. It's just like, I mean, I think we have enough wet blanket beat writers in Chicago that if there was any sort of possibility that they were not going to be there reporting to camp on Tuesday to sign the contract, that they would be all up on it.
Right, exactly. Exactly. I mean, there's another thought that I have too, um, with this whole thing is I really don't think that it's fair. And I'm not saying a lot of people are doing this, but when you think of a rookie not signing a deal with the Bears in recent years, we think of Roquan Smith, right? You remember that whole thing. And
Yep.
I don't get the same vibes or feelings from that at all.
No, that one we were expecting it and bracing for it. This one, it's not. I mean, the Bears literally today just posted videos from Caleb's charity, doing stuff for kids. So like 4 different videos. So I feel like this is probably going to be a thing that happens on Tuesday. We'll see. I mean, hopefully when we record next that it's um, this is a ha ha ha. I can't believe we were worried and not a oh Jesus, why weren't we worried?
Yeah, so I'm really not worried yet. I mean, if you get into a week or so in training camp and you're like, huh, that's when you can start to scratch your head. But right now, it kind of is what it is. And remember this too, is the Bears are going to be playing in the Hall of Fame game. And what do we know about the Hall of Fame game is it's an extra preseason game, and no real preseason game has a lot of, obviously in the standings especially, no real consequence, but I don't think that there's going to be a whole lot of evaluation in terms of the Bears roster structure coming from the Hall of Fame game. You're just kind of playing the Hall of Fame game.
Right. So the other question then comes in is, will the Bears make a move at some point to bring in a veteran edge rusher? And I've been thinking about it. And I think they're holding off. I really think they feel that somebody's going to take that step forward on that team and fill the spot opposite Montez Sweat. But you're not going to know until you get guys in actual training camp, probably a week or so in. And if that's the case, you wouldn't see. There's really only 2 names for you to sign, is Yannick Ngakoue and Emmanuel Agba, and you're not going to probably bring those guys in until at least a week in, so you see guys in pads and see what they look like, how they've worked out in the off season, how their physical conditioning is, and how the younger guys have worked. So I'm not anticipating anything until at least the second week of training camp, if they do anything.
Right. And I think that there's been a lot of smoke, not smoke, but around Yannick Ngakoue. It's not really smoke. It's more just kind of speculation. Would he be a guy to bring back? He's available. It wouldn't cost you much. He knows the defensive system. We know that it's not really the ideal move if you're looking to make a massive jump, but really, you're not making that type of move right now anyway. If you're in position at the trade deadline, yes, but right now you're just trying to get somebody in here. And he didn't really do much last year with the Bears. He was meh on the field and then he got hurt and missed much of the season. But you know what? If they brought him back really determined that, hey, I think this makes sense, I wouldn't hate it. But I also, to your point, am okay with them not just jumping on it. Because I do think it is good to kind of evaluate what you have a little bit first. So I do have that feeling they're going to make some sort of move, even if it's not big or flashy. But I just don't know when that's going to be. So would I be surprised if Yannick Ngakoue made his way back to the Bears? No. Am I necessarily saying it's going to happen? Also, no.
Yeah, I think they would prefer not to. Um, they preserve that salary cap space, let younger guys, sort of get the opportunities, but they're not going to leave. I don't think they're going to leave a gaping hole. They have the salary cap space currently to bring in one of those guys on a 1-year deal. But I think they want to see what these younger guys have, and what they're going to look like, before they just panic and bring somebody in. And that's, you've got, obviously you've got, Montez Sweat on the one side, but you've got, other guys on, like Austin Booker, who's a rookie, on the one side, and how is he going to look? Is he going to be able to make that jump? You've got Khalid Kareem and a few other guys that Dominique Robinson. Is he going to make that jump? DeMarcus Walker, is he going to show you why he's paid money and signed in a multi-year deal? Is somebody gonna challenge and step up and try to take that spot before you go in and pay somebody probably 1 year and $10 million?
Right.
So yeah, the Bears' first practice. So like I said, the veterans will report on Friday, and the very first practice is going to be 9:30 in the morning on Saturday, and the Hall of Fame game is going to be 8-1. So you're looking at less than 2 weeks of practice, week and a half of practice before you get that first game in.
Yeah, true.
So it's gonna be interesting to see how you have a new offensive coordinator with a new offensive scheme with a new rookie quarterback, how this all plays out. I think it's going to work out in the long run, but for the Hall of Fame game, I'm a little skeptical.
Right, sure.
Before we jump into baseball, do you want to talk Bulls Summer League a little bit?
I've been paying zero attention, but
I have paid minimal attention, except I've been watching a lot of clips of Matas Buzelis, and boy, he looks good.
So I've heard. I have heard that, yes.
I'm not trying to jinx it, but man, he looked really good. And you saw him put some moves on, drive to the basket. There was another one where he drew a double team and dumped it off to a wide open guy under the basket who was so shocked to be getting the ball. Pulled up jumpers, just a blocked shot. Like he ended up putting up 15 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 block shots. And if that's what he looks like, I think we got a steal.
Well, I sure hope so. I mean, you need something here. They need a good draft story because the last few drafts just have not really garnered anything overly exciting. Obviously, we've been waiting for Patrick Williams to take that step. Dalen Terry is a G League player, borderline NBA player at this point. So I really hope he works out. Like I said, there are traits about him that I like. So yeah, we'll see. I gotta tell you, there's nothing that interests me less than summer league basketball.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not going to sit there and watch it. I'm gonna watch videos and clips and highlights. Um, and that's about it.
Yeah,
And
no, I know. I'll watch some highlights here or there. Like if there's some, I mean, I've been forced to watch highlights because ESPN and NBA keep oh, look at this. He made this pass. Oh, look at what Bronny did. I get that shoved in my face 24/7. So I
you
can't
know,
help but see that. But I would definitely like to see highlights of this kid.
that first game that Bronny played, they were like, oh my God, Bronny, and they're showing all these highlights, like, or clips of him running the court. I'm like, oh man, he probably kicked ass. And I'm like, oh, he had 2 points. Why are you hyping this up like this? Ugh.
Yeah, it's all. I mean, the Lakers have basically become a reality TV show.
Yeah, pretty much. Um, so is what it is. All right. Should we move here to baseball?
Yes, because we have some breaking news.
So yeah, the Cubs just made their first round pick, number 14, third baseman Cam Smith from Florida State University.
Sounds like another good college bat. It kind of reminds you of last year when you took Matt Shaw. So you're getting another good infield bat. And what do we know about that? You can never have enough in the farm system. You can never have enough good bats in your farm system. And I do like taking college bats because we've seen a lot of success with college bats and they have a bit more of a pedigree to them. Because listen, you sign international prospects who are 16, 17 years old. I mean, they're so far off from the majors and they have so much to do and to go. And then even with high school, when you draft guys out of high school, it's kind of difficult to project because they're so young. But when you have a college bat, you're like, okay, they've built up a bit more of a pedigree, and you've faced some pretty good competition these days in college. I mean, Paul Skeens was drafted last year, and he's now starting the MLB All-Star game this year. So you're facing some really good polished competition. So in theory, you don't need to develop some of these prospects as long if they are the real deal. We saw success with Chris Bryant, drafted him out of college. Same thing. So I like going this route. I've said before that I don't treat the MLB draft like I do, obviously, the NFL or even the NHL, because I think that with the MLB, it's such a crapshoot at the end of the day. Such a freaking crapshoot. But, you can look at, in my opinion, this is how I look at it. Yeah, I look at the attributes that these guys have and I'll be like, okay, I like that. And sounded like he was kind of the best bat available, so they didn't overthink and they just took him. So, hey, cool.
Yeah. If you look at his scout grades, he's a 55 overall, 55 hit, 50 power, 45 run, 60 arm, and 55 field. Um, Big kid, 6'3", 224, 21 years old. He uh when he from his rookie year, he was what I'm reading was batted 258 and then took this huge leap. And last year batted 387.
That's
And
pretty
had,
good.
yeah, and 16 home runs in 66 games, and cut his strikeouts in half. And had a 56 game on base streak. So he's a big kid and an ascending player. So I don't know a ton about him, but I'm hopeful. It would be nice to have another bat be able to come into the organization with ability to hit home runs.
Yeah, for sure. And you know that Matt Shaw just played in the Futures game, and you hope that he's on the horizon pretty soon. So if he comes up and you keep stocking your farm with this corner talent, then yeah, that is a good thing. So we'll see. If that's all I can really say at the end of the day with these baseball picks. But I am at least excited that despite all the frustration with this franchise, that we can still look within our farm system and say, wow, there is a notable amount there. And if this kid is kind of what he's hyped up to be, maybe that's another nice asset to have in the farm after you eventually call up Matt Shaw.
Yeah. So I mean, he's coming in as a sophomore, so he's still a young guy. Um, so I'm hopeful. Fingers crossed here.
For
But
sure.
um, you know, going into this show, I was like, is it safe to start talking about maybe the Cubs have started to turn a corner a little bit? And then we had the doubleheader yesterday. And it was like all of the demons that the Cubs have had this season just unleash themselves in one 2-game series or 2-game doubleheader. You had errors and just an awful inning leading to that basically cost you the game, and then a blown lead in the eighth to lose a game, and you're just like, nope, nope. I don't care what they did against the Orioles or the Angels. Nope. this. They're not turning a corner.
Well, so it kind of feels like we're in that no man's land again. And the Cubs mathematically are in it. The thing is, you have a lot of teams ahead of you between the third wild card spot and where you are. And it's hard to leapfrog a lot of teams. It's not impossible, but it's very difficult, especially when a lot of those teams hold or have clinched the tiebreaker against you. Like, listen, you can look at the series against the Reds, the Giants, the Mets, and you can point at that one game and say, in each of those battles, just looking at every game we played against those teams. And I mean, you can look at the Cardinals too. You can look at pretty much anybody in the National League that you're either chasing or in the mix with and say, in each series we had against them, if we just took that one game that we let slip away, things could be so much different. If you had 3, 4, 5 more wins, even, I think things would feel a lot different. And you ended up splitting the series in St. Louis. You looked really good today. PCA hitting 2 home runs, Morel hitting 2 home runs, scoring early, scoring often, and then being able to just put it away. And you had a great game Friday night, but game 2 yesterday is really what hurt. The Saturday night, that game 2 loss, that was the one where you say, shit, that's the one that got away.
Yep.
If you win that game and you take 3 of 4, then I think you do feel a little different. Because I really think you needed to ideally take 3 of 4.
that would
in
have
this
been
series
nice
against the Cardinals.
because the division rival,
Yeah.
you need to win these division games. Like that's the most important thing is these division games. And it was your last series before going into the All-Star break. And you sort of need to figure out what you are and who you are in order to, uh, for the front office to make these decisions before the trade deadline, which is rapidly, we're like 2 weeks away. So these talks are happening, and they could easily pivot had you lost all four of these games versus winning all four of these games. That's going to wildly change how the weekend conversations are going with other GMs and Jed and Carter.
Well, and that's the other thing too is teams ahead of you are going to be stockpiling up. Like we know teams like the Cardinals are going to be buyers. We know San Diego is probably going to be buyers. You got to figure that a team like the Diamondbacks could be buyers. The Pirates, I think, are going to be buyers. That team's a little scary right now. With the way that rotation is lining up, that team's got some moxie. I'm not saying they're world beaters or they're going to win the World Series, but they're no joke anymore. And they've been winning, and they are climbing up. They're ahead of you. You're still in the basement of the NL Central. You might not be in there by much. You might be within just a game or two of all those other teams, but again, the tiebreakers, I think, make a big difference. And when the All-Star break is over, you have a crucial series against the Diamondbacks.
Yep.
You gotta win, you gotta win that series to actually, and then you'll have a tiebreaker over them and hopefully gain a little more ground. I don't know, man. It feels very in-betweenish right now. And that series against the Orioles was the best series of the year for the Cubs, and it's not even close. You didn't just sweep the Orioles, you beat the everlasting piss out of them. You scored. You scored early. You hit with runners in scoring position. You hit the ball out of the ballpark. You played spectacular defense. You pitched great. Your starters in Baltimore were unhittable. Steele was great. Imanaga was great. Tyone was really good. You did everything right in Baltimore. And you looked really good in the opener against the Cardinals. Kyle Hendricks, he just owns the Cardinals. He might be bad overall this year, but against the Cardinals, he still owns them. And you hit again timely in that opening game. And then, like you said, the doubleheader. It's like everything just kind of came crumbling down. So I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just been, after that Baltimore series, I'm sitting there going, all right, well, this is the team that I think we were hoping for and thought we were going to get for, this season. And you're like, okay, it's not too late. It's definitely not too late to start being this team. And then, you had the series before that was pretty good. And then, you win the first game against the Cardinals. You're like, okay. And then just Saturday, it was like a PTSD moment. Everything just came crashing down from the, May and June and the first couple weeks of July that, all just comes crashing down on you.
And you know what? Had they won the nightcap, I could have just brushed off that blowout loss to the side in game one.
Yeah, you're like, you know what? That first inning just really sucked. Outside of, if you take away that first inning, it was a good game. That first inning just really stunk.
Yeah, it did. And it doesn't matter what ratio you lose by. If you win a series, you win a series. And the thing that really, really sucked in the second game was it showed all the bumps that you had in the regular season up to that point because it was the top of the fourth. We're up 4-3. You have runners at the corners with nobody out, and you can't get them home. You can't get anybody home. Suzuki couldn't get a fly ball, and then Morel with the bases loaded grounded into a double play. And I think every Cubs fan in their mind said the same thing. Like, that probably just lost us the game. And eventually it did, because that was essentially a bullpen day. Javier Assad came back early, clearly wasn't ready to come back and pitch because he didn't pitch well. You had a few defensive plays that kept you in the game, but you could tell that the Cardinals were going to probably break through eventually. And your bullpen is really banged up, and it's been kind of a revolving door of guys. I mean, you've seen Hunter Biggie come up, you've seen Porter Hoge come up, because now Luke Little's hurt on top of all the other injuries. So it's like a rotating door, and you were just kind of sitting there thinking, how on earth are we going to get through this game and survive this? And they almost did, but not quite.
Yeah, it was a little. I mean, I don't know what else you would have done, but it was a little surprising they sent down Hunter Biggie to bring up Javier Assad, because you're like, okay, well, you need those bullpen arms, but that's what they did. They sent Hunter Biggie back down to, I believe, AAA to bring Javier Assad off of the injured list for that roster spot. And
I mean,
did
I almost, in that case, if he wasn't ready, I don't know what your opinion on this is, but I almost have rather just said, Drew Smiley, you get the start in game two.
Yeah, I like, why rush it? Because you had a built-in another week that you could have given Javier Assad, or a week plus, because you got a few days for the All-Star break, and then you can start resetting your rotation. So I mean, you could have like a week and a half almost of extra time for him to come back, and I would have probably preferred that.
Yeah, me too. I think the Cubs are probably thinking, all right, just get us get us like 3, 4 innings of decent and keep us in this game. And I think he only pitched two, and it could
I
have
don't
been a
think he
lot
got a full
worse.
two. Get like 1 2/3 or something. Uh,
Yeah, I honestly don't, but he didn't go longer than two. I know that much.
yeah, he did not.
It just, it was one of those things where you're like, I think you could have gone Smiley, and I know Smiley's not the greatest, but Irsad clearly didn't have it yesterday.
Oh no, he went 2 1/3. You were right. 2 1/3.
2 1/3, yeah.
Yeah, 7 hits, 3 no strikeouts, 2 walks.
Yeah. And like I said, you made some nice Miles Mastrobuoni, who's been spectacular with the glove, by the way, um, kind of helped you out a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, not helping you. That glove.
And it's really good. And I can say that the defense is finally playing how it's supposed to be. I think we can say that, right?
I mean, yes, you outside of the errors from the first game on Saturday.
Well, yeah, but that whole thing just went to shit.
That just turned into a clown show so quick.
It's almost like they weren't ready to play.
That begs the question: is where do we stand with Hayden Wesneski?
I don't know, man.
You had yesterday's game, which was a disaster, but then his game against the Angels was excellent.
Yeah, but
Six and
the
a third.
Angels are pretty bad though.
Yeah, and he didn't have a particularly good game against Philadelphia, but he was okay against San Francisco. Yes, it's I don't know. You know, I can't figure out if is it he needs to be solved? Is he going to be? Is he a tweener? Or you got to put him somewhere, either the bullpen or in the rotation, and just let him marinate. And maybe he just you get some healthy arms, just send him back down and let him marinate in AAA.
Yeah, I mean, it's because you see the issues when he hangs a pitch, whether it's a slider or a fastball that just gets whopped. Uh, you see the promise at times, but it just never fully comes together over a stretch because he's had some relief outings where he's looked really damn good. And then he's had relief outings where he comes in and it's like, boom, he gives up a home run right off the bat. There's just no consistency here. And
Yeah, that's the word with him. It's just inconsistent. And I don't know how you get that because he's got stuff. It's just so inconsistent that it's frustrating. It makes me want to pull what little hair I have left in my head out.
yeah, and I really wished that he looked more like the guy that we got an initial taste of in 2022 because he looked really good when he first came up with the Cubs. We were thinking, wow, this guy looks legit. And then he had that great spring training in 23. And it's like, hey, maybe we do have something here. And then it just all fell apart. The regular season last year came and he got blown up, sent back to the minors. I don't know. No, I don't think you can trust him right now to be anything more than like, hey, we need someone to make a start, or if he's in the bullpen, you come in kind of that middle relief, not in high leverage, because he doesn't give up a lot in high leverage, but it's always giving up like that game tying home run. Like you're up 3-2 in the eighth, and he comes in and he serves up a bomb on like the first, second pitch. So it's not enough to get the game completely out of control, but it's enough to blow the lead in those situations. So, eh.
Yeah, I don't know what the
I'm
answer
not
is.
really. I don't look at him right. I don't look at him thinking I trust this guy in a big moment.
Right. I agree with that. And it sucks because when the Cubs acquired him, I think we were all pretty hopeful.
We were. It seemed like a good deal. Hey, here's Scott Efros. The Yankees are getting a reliever that kind of discovered himself, and the Cubs are getting a pitching prospect. So, see, you didn't give up a haul for him, obviously, but you hope that hey, you get something here. It's just too bad.
Yeah, it is what it is. Um, let's see. What else do you have? The Cubs. Bellinger is out, broken finger. Um,
Yeah.
I think I think that seals the deal that he's. I don't know if he was ever on the trading block for real, but I think that seals the deal that he's not going to get traded.
I don't really know how you could trade him right now at this point when he's injured. And the Bellinger thing's complicated because obviously the structure of the contract, with the options and stuff, the opt-ins makes things a little interesting with the way, he's in the big leagues, not just on like, hey, it's a 3-year deal and that's it. You can opt in, opt out. It's not a long commitment, but if you're trading for him, it's like, is he going to opt in next year? Is he going to opt out? We don't know. Um, so that's a little complicated. Add on to the fact, and this is all just beyond the injury, but he's hitting okay, but he's not slugging.
Yes.
That's the biggest thing with Bellinger. He's hitting, but he's not slugging. And ideally, you need him to slug.
Yeah, you need him to. You need everybody to slug, but he's a guy that you're counting on.
Right. Right. I mean, when, we've seen him help start rallies getting on base. We see him hit singles to the hole. but you're not seeing that power. You're not seeing the doubles in the gap like you want to at the frequency. You're not seeing the home runs at the frequency. Not like Ian Happ, because he's hitting extra base hits left and right. He's been on quite a tear.
Yes. Fielding too.
Yes. Outside of an occasional boop, but yeah, he's made some really nice plays, and he's been overall very valuable the past month or so. I mean, he's up to 15 home runs, and we're just at the All-Star break.
Yeah.
And he's hitting doubles when he's not hitting home runs. He's hitting a lot of extra base hits, and you just weren't.
And now the rumors are flying about the Cubs being interested in Blue Jays catcher Danny Jensen.
Something that I thought was more intriguing a few months ago. Now I'm not as sure.
Right. I don't know. I'm a lot less interested in what's going to happen at the trade deadline because I've sort of what's beyond tempering expectations. I have no expectations.
Mm-hmm.
They've just, it is what it is. Whatever happens, I've been high, I've been low, and now I'm just going to accept that we're not a team that's a playoff caliber team. So I'm not anticipating anything crazy. I'm sure they'll make a move or two. They're not going to bring in Pete Alonso. They're not going to sell off their team. They're going to do some, low moves.
Yeah, I'm not expecting anything. I mean, and really, you have another week or so with crucial games before that deadline. That can really determine where you actually are. Because if you lose the next two series, I don't see any way you're realistically getting back into the race. But if you win, you're kind of in that, you're in it. So I really would like to see how these next few series go. Because over the next few weeks, you got to play Diamondbacks. You got to play the Brewers again. You got to play the Reds again on the road, which has been a hellhole for the Cubs recently. So, there's series coming up that are crucial.
Yep. Any other Cubs talk that you have here?
No, no. I do hope that Shota Imanaga gets a chance to pitch in the All-Star game. I think it's a shame that Justin Steele is not in the All-Star game. He should be, unless he gets added as a last-minute reserve or something as a pitcher with another injury. But I think he deserves to be at the All-Star game. Just saying, he's been phenomenal.
Yeah, he has. Speaking of phenomenal, not Cubs related, what's your opinion? If you are the manager of the Pirates, are you pulling Paul Skeens when he's got a no hitter?
Baseball me says no, but the way he throws, I can understand why you don't want to push him. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's tough.
He's just such a big, strong kid. I'm kind of on the fence of just, you know what? He's ready to go. I'm going to let him go. I understand why you're not, but man, I don't know. I'm probably erring on the side of letting him do it.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah, but is what that is. I don't have any control, and I think just for the game, damn, is he good?
Yeah,
Damn, is he
he's
good?
unreal.
you
And
look
we get to deal with him.
you look at the rotation of the Pirates, and they got a guy that's 33, and then they've got like two 22-year-olds, 25-year-old and a 27-year-old, I think. Like they've got 4 of their 5 starting pitchers are in their mid to 20s. You're like, oof.
And we have to deal with that for a while. They're not a joke anymore, man. The Pirates are not a joke anymore.
I can't remember who it was. It was like a professional baseball, like talking head. And he said about Paul Skeens, he's like, the pitching, the question I posed, he's like, it's a shame that you're not letting arguably the greatest pitcher of all time pitch. And he said it seriously that Paul Skeens, he thinks could be the greatest pitcher of all time. And I was like, man, that maybe he is. I'm not going to discount it. The stuff looks great. And, the the first couple of months of his rookie year, it's hard to top. But boy, there's been some absolutely phenomenal pitchers in this game, and it's hard for me to be like Paul Skeens at 22 years old is the greatest, because I've seen Nolan Ryan, I've seen Roger Clemens, I've seen some really damn good pitchers.
Those are big shoes to fill. That's if you're putting that tag on him, that's pretty big.
Yeah. And I'm not saying he can't be at that, because he's got stuff. He's got the stuff that if you told me, if Biff comes back, with the book, and is like, you know what, Paul Skeens goes down as the greatest pitcher of all time, I'm like, yeah, I could see it. But that's also big shoes to fill, and anything can happen.
And just now, Biff is now knocking on your head. Hello in there. Hey.
McFly.
Anybody home? Make like a tree and get out of here.
I used that line on my daughter. And she just looked at me like I had 3 heads and goes, Dad, that doesn't make any sense.
Make like a tree.
She's like, I think it's make like a tree and leave. And I was like, McFly.
Mick, what?
She's never seen Back to the Future.
Oh, she needs to see it at some point.
As a parent, I've learned after trying to show my kid movies from my childhood without rewatching them that you got to rewatch them, because I was like, oh, she's going to love The Goonies. It's a classic. First scene, one of the Fratelli brothers hangs himself, and then they have a shootout with the police. I was like, oof. And I was like, all right, I'll show her Footloose. It's like it's a dancing movie, she'll like it. Oh no, there's like graphic domestic violence scene and nudity, and I was like, oh god. So like now I've learned I've got to go back and rewatch these movies first, then show them. And I haven't watched Back to the Future in a long time, so I'm like, I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch that one. She might love it, but I got to see what sort of things are 80s PG or PG-13, because 80s PG was wild.
Well, I'll tell you this. The only thing that I really think you're going to get is you get a few cursing, but that's really about it.
Yeah, it's, I was worried, like Home Alone, I showed her because she's really sensitive to when people are mean to other people. And I forgot how vicious the McAllister family is to each other. And
the way they treat Kevin, man.
Yeah. And I was like, oh no, she's going to get really upset because everybody's just mean. And then I think once there was booby traps involved, she was in, because she set booby traps all over the house. And and I was like, okay, this was a hit. So I took her to see the Home Alone house up in wherever it is in the North Shore. Wilmette, Winnetka, wherever it is.
Yeah.
So I took her to see the house, and she was like super excited. I showed her the high school where they, did you ever watch on Netflix, there's a series called The Movies That Made Us.
Yes.
Did you watch?
Yes,
Did you watch the Home Alone one?
I did.
Like that was so neat that the basement that they flooded, that they built that in the swimming pool at like New Trier or whatever high school that was.
Yeah, isn't it? I had no idea. Like, and knowing that, like, they built the set separately. Like, I thought they just filmed it like all inside the house, but like the exterior of the house was the house. But then they built an interior set. I found that very interesting.
I know they do that a lot so they can, because when you're trying to have a camera view, you need to be able to have like
Yeah, it makes it. Yep.
walls fly
Yep.
away. So sometimes they'll use like an interior for like certain shots, but then they'll build the rest of it on a sound stage or something. Um, but to build the whole basement in a swimming pool, I was like, that's actually genius.
It was. It was. And I think the interior set was built in like the gymnasium or something.
Yeah. So that was a
They
cool,
did
like,
the same thing.
I watched all of those for even movies that I have never seen, like Dirty Dancing. I've never seen Dirty Dancing, but I watched that movies that made us, and I was like, all right, there's a lot of interesting stuff in here.
I loved that series. And I haven't watched all of them, and I need to watch more of them because of how much I enjoy them. So yeah, those are really, really fun to watch. If anyone listening hasn't watched it, watch it.
Yeah, and like uh the first season was great, and then when they came out with that the most recent season, like uh you're like, wow, they just uh absolutely crushed it with um that you know their selection of movies, because
Hmm.
you look at season 3, it's Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, RoboCop, Aliens, Coming to America, Nightmare Before Christmas, Elf. Like, there's no at least from my purview, there's no bad movies in there. I think that was like season 3.
Yeah,
uh
it's a great selection.
yeah, like I've never seen Pretty Woman, but I watched that anyway. I'm not the biggest Forrest Gump fan, but I watched that one. Never saw Dirty Dancing, but I watched that one. Um, so, the first 2 seasons, like there was some movies that third season, they were just like, all right, what movies is Sean gonna love? And they were like, here, this is the list.
I'm sorry. I'm still laughing. I showed my daughter the Goonies.
I was like, oh, she's gonna laugh at Pinchers of Power, and no, no. Uh, the first scene, I'm like, my wife is looking at me. She's like, "Are you sure it's okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's gonna be fine." First scene, I could just feel the dagger shooting from her eyes, and I was like, I fucked up. I fucked up.
Nice going.
But it ended up being okay. I think it went over her head, and the rest of the movie was okay. But um, she's like, the guy that puts the necklace in his mouth, he's funny. And I was like, yeah, he's really a sad person now. He's really a weirdo now. Uh,
Yeah,
uh, should we wrap this up with some White Sox here?
sure.
Over the last 30 days of baseball, the White Sox are not the worst team in baseball.
No kidding.
It would be a tie between Oakland and the New York Yankees.
Yeah. Yeah, New York has been really struggling, really, really struggling. And obviously they're in that big battle with Baltimore for first place. So, that's gotten things a little interesting.
I'm really rooting for the Orioles in that division. Uh,
Yeah, I like that team.
I like that team, and they've always had a soft spot because my all-time favorite player since I was a little kid has been Cal Ripken.
Hmm.
And so, like, the Orioles, I don't even know why, just he's been my favorite since I was like 6 years old. Um, and uh, so it's it's developed into Mark Grace, Ryan Sandberg, Andre Dawson, Cal Ripken, but Cal Ripken has been that stalwart there, and so Orioles have always been like my second favorite team, and so it's nice to see them finally playing well.
Yeah, I mean, they got so many exciting players. Adley Rushman is just an absolute beast.
And they still got guys down in the minors.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Uh,
I still think, though, they really need to add another starting pitcher. I mean, Corbin Burns has been really, really good, but I think they really need another starter.
Probably. I'm sure that is. I'm sure that is something that they're working on over these next 2 weeks. But um, it's a tightrope because you want to get somebody that's going to be impactful, but you don't want to mortgage the future for a rental.
So to tie this back to the White Sox, Eric Fetty is going to be on the market, right?
Eric Fetty is going to be on the market.
And Orioles could use another starting pitcher or two. The Orioles have some prospects, and Eric Fetty is controlled well because next year, and he's not being paid a shit ton of money, and he's pitching really, really, really well. So, is that a potential match there?
I think that's a perfectly fine match, but I'm going to throw another option out there, and only because that division is such like a minefield to go through, because you have big market teams that have for the most part, have a lot of money to throw around, and it's a tough division to win and be consistently dominant in that division. And if they go Eric Fetty, I'm not gonna be upset by that, and I think that'll be a solid move. But do you go with the home run and try to get Garrett Crochet? You're gonna pay a lot more for him, but he's under team control and he's 25 years old.
Talent-wise, it'd be more ideal, but how much more is he going to pitch this year?
I don't know, but boys, he's really good. And he's
great. He's fantastic. Yeah.
Eric Fetty is a guy that I think helps you stay in that division and make the playoffs and probably win the division. Is he a guy that you're throwing out there in the American League Championship? Probably not. But Garrett Crochet is a guy that you feel confident that you could put out there against the Yankees if it comes to a game 7. You're like, I'll throw Garrett Crochet out there.
Well, again, talent wise, but what's his pitch limit this year?
I don't know. And I think that's going to be something you have to evaluate as a organization looking to trade for him.
Right, because I mean, here's the thing: if you're talking talent ceiling, obviously Crochet way over Fetty, but who do you feel more confident in just giving you the innings?
Probably Fetty, and also with Fetty is if his arm falls off, you don't care. You don't. He's not a long-term piece. He's not.
Oh, look, his arm just fell off. Oh, whatever.
He's like, Dave Trevecchi, his arm fell off. It's you look at Fetty and you're like, okay, this is like he's a year and a half rental, and you're like, if we burn him out, that's what you do. You're gonna burn him out, and you're gonna squeeze every last quality inning you can get out of him, and you don't care what happens. If you're trading for a Garrett Crochet, you care because he is not only a guy that you're going to have for the remainder of that contract, he's a guy that you're probably going to look to sign to a huge value contract. So you don't want to burn that arm out. But Fetty, was he 31 years old? Like you're not going to sign him to a long-term extension. You're going to
No, you're not. You're not.
So you don't if he pitches all this year and then next year he gives you 2/3 of a season and then he has Tommy John, you go, oh, that we got a good run out of him. See you later, Haas, and you take him out back and you shoot him. Because you just don't care at that point. So that's the difference. Is you don't worry about inning limits. You don't worry about like Eric Fetty. You'll traipse out there if you need him to throw 120 pitches. Put him out there for 120 pitches. Who cares?
Well, so that begs the question is, the Orioles are probably in that position where they're right now thinking we want to go for it, right? Like you want to go for it. So if you're in that mode, do you take the safe or do you take the risk that may or may not get you the go for it this year? Obviously, you'd have him for a number of years under control, but how are you thinking this? Or would Garrett Crochet potentially go to kind of a mid-tier team where they have a chance to win, but they're also thinking long-term? Where it's like, okay, we get him this year. If you don't throw him a lot, okay, then we can really focus on next year. Obviously, I think the Orioles can think about this year and long-term, so I can't exactly rule that out. But I do also think the Orioles would ideally like to make moves that really give you a boost to win this year. Because here's a question. The Orioles are not known as big spenders, right? They're not a huge market. They're, you're getting a new owner, yes. But I don't know how they're going to spend because you have this young team. They're going to be here a few years, but how long are they going to be here? So what I'm trying to say is I do feel like the Orioles are going to want to go for some true big strike moves right now. And whether that or not they think Fetty or Crochet could be part of that, I think there is a fit with any of them.
Their payroll is currently $117 million. It's not a big payroll. That's their total.
A lot of rookies.
Their adjusted payroll total is $101 million. They have 3 players that are making over $10 million.
Yeah, well, when you're a young team and a lot of arbitration deals, pre-arb deals, that'll help.
Yeah, so Corbin Burnes is their highest paid player at $15.5 million. Craig Kimbrell is their second highest at $12 million.
Wow. And I would think they'd want to keep Corbin Burnes around a while.
I'm sure. Why wouldn't you?
Right. You gave up not a massive haul, but you gave up something. I mean, Joey Ortiz is looking pretty good with the Brewers. So you gave up something to get him.
So you've got Corbin Burnes is still in arbitration. Craig Kimbrell's a veteran. And then I'm reading from their payroll from highest to lowest here. So after highest paid player, Corbin Burnes, arbitration, Kimbrell, veteran, then arbitration, veteran, James McCann at $4 million. Arbitration, and then everybody else is pre-arb.
Yeah.
There's nobody on that team making a lot of money.
No, not at all. And it's funny when I saw James McCann on the Orioles, I forgot he was even still playing.
Yeah, me too. James, remember when he was a thing?
Oh yeah, with the White Sox. He was an all-star with the White Sox.
And then the Mets,
and if I remember correctly,
and the Mets gave him that big contract, and he did not pan out. Oof.
No. I mean, it seemed like he seemed like one of those people in Chicago. He just really felt really comfortable with the White Sox, and he was really good with Lucas Giolito.
Yeah.
You remember that. He
Yep.
kind of helped bring Lucas Giolito to his prime form because I believe his All-Star season, that's when Lucas Giolito really started turning things around.
Yep. So, yeah, the White Sox, they made a move. They had, I believe they picked fifth in this draft. Yeah, fifth.
Mm-hmm.
And they picked another Smith. So both teams' first round draft picks were a Smith. So this White Sox got Hagen Smith, who is a pitcher, left-handed pitcher from Arkansas, University of Arkansas. And this is a guy that had a breakout season, 8-2 record, 3.64 ERA, 109 strikeouts in 72 innings. First team All-American, has some electric stuff, and um, he's probably very close to joining the majors. You know, he's a guy that's on the cusp of joining a team, you know, Paul Skeen style, maybe next year or shortly after into the season after. But, you know, he's just about to turn 21 years old, I believe, in next month. So you've got a young player to go along with the other pitching prospects that you have in your farm system. I still think this makes it such a dumb move that you're going to trade Garrett Crochet, but it's when you're an owner that doesn't want to spend money, that's what you do.
Well, you know, this keep building up pitching value in their system because they have some arms in that organization. I mean, we've seen how good what was his name? Noah Schultz has been. If you pay attention to him in the minors, you see some real promise there. We've seen how effective Drew's been in the majors. And we saw what they did with Garrett Crochet, obviously. So I think their pitching development might actually be onto something. I mean, look what they've done with Eric Fetty. Even like Jonathan Cannon seems like a decently promising guy. So that you know they've got some intriguing pitching there.
Yep. Yeah. So it's they've got a lot of good pitching in their minor league system. It's you've gotta get some bats to put around it, and you gotta spend some money. You've got to spend money at some point.
Yeah, we'll tell it to Jerry.
Jerry is a turd Ferguson.
Yeah. Yes, he is. That's a very, very nice way of putting it.
But if you look at the MLB strikeout leaders, let's actually look at the the MLB strikeout leaders. Is number 1 is Garrett Crochet, White Sox product. Number 2, Dylan Cease, former White Sox. And number 5 is Chris Sale, former White Sox.
Yeah.
You're like, you could theoretically have all 3 of those guys in your rotation right now.
Well, they all once wore the Sox uniform, and
one of them just, slightly altered White Sox uniform, but yeah.
One's got a bunch of rips in it.
He took scissors to the uniform.
I will never forget that because my brother's old boss with whatever outlet he wrote for was the very first one to break the news on Twitter because the initial news that night, if you remember, was Chris Sale removed from start. Like that's all we had. So we're thinking, oh, is he being traded? Is he hurt? And I think there was a lot of rumblings about him being traded because that was mid-season and the Sox weren't competing. And then he tweets about how he cut up the uniforms in the White Sox dugout. And at first I thought that was a joke. Like I legitimately thought that was a joke. And then other people started reporting it. And I'm like, wait, is this for real? And it was. It was just the weirdest thing. Like, when has that ever happened where a player had such an issue with the uniforms that he cut them up.
It was such a
And
weird story.
I just want to picture Chris Sale with like this slightly angry straight face taking a knife and just slashing them just alone in a clubhouse, like picturing an adult human being doing that. It's just so bizarre.
You know what was interesting about this MLB draft? Sorry, non sequitur here is I'm looking. His a foreign-born player was picked first and second. Guy from Australia was first, and a guy from Italy is second.
Look at that. I thought you were going to say they also cut up jerseys.
I don't know. He's Australian. He might.
Oi, mate. Oi, 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 oi. As he's just having a ball, just cutting those things up.
He's like, you call that a knife? This is a knife. That's a spoon. Those are scissors. I've seen you play knifey scissors before.
Great reference. And then he takes him to the jerseys.
He's just, he starts Edward Scissor handing the jersey.
Now, weren't those like what Chris Sale did? Those were throwback White Sox jerseys. Were they like the dark navy blue with like the collar on it? If I remember correctly.
I think it was the ones with the collar, and it was the collar that was the issue.
So he cut them up.
As you do. At least he didn't climb through the ductwork to break it.
Also happened at Guaranteed Rate Field.
So many good stories there.
Is there something in the vents?
Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I think I've said my piece.
Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe. However you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Share this podcast with your friends. That's how we grow the show. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com, or ShyFanPat2 for Alex on Twitter/X, or AlexanderJPatCreative.com for all the cool stuff that Alex does. And again, thank you guys so much for listening. Until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her, you can have her, she's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like number New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on the plains.
Bears 31 to -7.
The Bears. Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.